Okay, well, we're going to get started. I'm thrilled to see so many people here today. So I'm really grateful for you being here today. Speaks volumes about Ken. So for those who don't know me, my name is Paul Kroner, and this is Studio Kroner. I am constantly humbled by the trust the artists I get to represent for a very limited time put in me to put on a show for them. So Ken is no exception to that at all, just the opposite. So it's interesting, I think, probably, how many people out here are students of Ken's or have been students of Ken? Okay. Well over half the crowd. And I know, was your name Kate? Well, I'm sorry. You were in here the other day and said you've been taking classes for 18 years with Ken. Amazing, amazing. It's my pleasure to introduce Ken Landon Buck, into the gallery and for this show. Ken is a nationally recognized pastelist. Is that what? That's correct. Pastelist, watercolorist, and he's earned signature status in numerous prestigious organizations like the Pastel Society of America, the National Watercolor Association or Society, and the Watercolor Society of America, and several regional watercolor and pastel societies. He's been featured in publications like Pastel Journal, Creative Watercolor, The Advocate, Manifest, The Nude, too. His paintings can be found in private and corporate collections throughout the country, including Cincinnati Financial Corporation, the Brown Forman, Baker Hunt Foundation, and the NC2A. Is that accurate?
Something other. It's one of the sports places.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you do sports?
I do. Well, they bought a polo painting. I did.
Okay. I saw that and I was like, I wanted to ask you about that. In addition to his studio practice, which is robust, Ken is a dedicated educator, as witnessed by everybody here in the crowd today. And he teaches at Baker Hunt, and you've taught at the Art Academy, right? And you teach private classes at the Essex?
Yes.
And probably elsewhere, I would think. We're delighted to have this opportunity to hear from Ken, not only about this show specifically, but about his practice and about his philosophy on art. So please join me in welcoming Ken Landon Buck. I'm going to try to stay out of this as much as I can, so I'll turn it over. I did want to start out with a quote that was in the City Beat article that came out last week on you. And I love this quote. I tell people when they're painting that everything has a soul. Whether it's a rock or a tree, paint it like it has a soul, and you'll care about what you're painting. I think there's so much in that statement about who you are and how you approach your work, and I just want to start off by talking about that statement, have you follow up on it, and just talk about it, and talk about how you came to that philosophy yourself and how you imbue your students with that philosophy.
Well, I try not to say things I don't mean when I'm teaching. That's my rule of thumb. If I haven't done it, I don't let people think I can do it. And I need them to be able to do it. So I say, I've done it, you can do it. I always tell people my first start was doing stick figures, and people said no. But yes, I did match, stick figures, X's, all the worst thing you could possibly do, stuff that went to the trash can, bad art. But a lot of bad art made better art. But I tell people, if you wreck a piece of paper, there's always another one behind it. So each painting you do, even if you think it's terrible, leads to a better one. Does that make sense? Because as we live, we experience. As we experience, we create. As we create, we bring it on to someone else. So my thing as a teacher, I don't have a lot of power in the world. I wish I did. Oh, everybody would get along, everybody have a place. So that's how this show kind of invented, because I believe everybody has a purpose in life, no matter how small. I always tell people when I was a kid, I was bullied a lot, I was picked on, until I found art, they stopped bullying me. But I never felt I had a niche or a place in the world. I'd always told people I didn't feel like I belonged. many, many years into high school, senior high, do I finally figure I could live with other people and had a place. But without art, I couldn't have done that. So I try to pass it on to everybody. I've had people recovering from cancer in my classes, people going through cancer, brain cancer, breast cancer, every kind you can know. People that have gotten super depressed, people got super sick, people that have lost their husbands or they got left. All the most painful things in the world that I said, I've gone through all this stuff myself and survived it through art. So it sounds really nice to say art is everything, but it is. I totally teach, even past the time people say you should, take some time for yourself. I totally believe that if I can give somebody the gift of painting, their voice, because it took me a long time to find my voice. If you find your voice and your soul goes into your painting every time you paint. So I totally believe even little things help you to heal. It took me a long time to realize art is healing. I always read about it, but I've gone through every bad thing in my life and survived it by painting. So I want that gift to have for anybody. Even, I always tell people, everybody can sing, everybody can dance, everybody can paint. It's whether you would pay them to do so after doing so. Does that make sense? That's where we have the difference. But everybody can paint. So if you do it for yourself, I always tell students, I started out painting for me. I never thought, I was super shy, super scared of everybody. Until I started painting, it took me years to get through it. As I said, I didn't feel like I belonged. I didn't think I was important. I still have days like that, and I choke on it, but I find by talking to other people, forcing myself to get out and putting my stuff down and taking a chance. So I always tell students, I started where you are, you can get to the place I'm at and beyond. I never thought I'd be in books, never thought my things would be in collections or museums. I never thought I'd be on TV. God knows I would never be on radio or TV, but I've been in all those things. I've been on PBS and things I didn't want to do, but I did it to help my art and to get it out there and to help other people find their voice. Talking about private stuff is really, really hard for me. People used to laugh, you take me to parties and say, you've been here long enough and move me to another part of the room. Literally moving me to another part of the room because I was just like, get me in a corner, get me a drink of water or tea or coffee. So I would have something to latch onto besides people because I was terrified of people. I still have that happen, but I can I can overplay that by, I always say, secret. If you see me with an empty cup of coffee, that is my prop to get me through anything. So any party, I have a glass in my hand or a cup. You see it, that is my little safety thing I learned from Shirley MacLaine. She says, I go to parties and everybody wants me to be there, so I put on persona. So my persona is this. So you see me, you know my vulnerability. I'm holding on to this for dear life and trying not to grip it so the white shows in my fingers, but that's how I get through when I'm nervous. Other times I have a tendency to chatter and I don't want to stop. So I say, if you invite me to a party, I have ketchup and mustard. And they go, why? I said, so I put my foot in my mouth, it tastes better. So, but it's true. I always go home and say, why did I say that? So, but I personally believe that everything in life has a universal light, soul, whatever you want to call it. Everything, everyone is connected. Does that make sense? I've experienced this personally with a bunch of things in my life since childhood. I've had all sorts of things happen I can't explain. Really bad things that have happened that I've survived and shared with people. And personally said, well, I believe there is a higher power, whatever you want to call it. You don't have to give it a name. But every time something bad's happened in my life and I couldn't see getting out of bed, something has happened. I've had days where I just wanted to go out of this world. But by good people in my life, people that have taken time to know me and help me develop, I always tell people I owe a lot to my mother, because she, when she got divorced, she moved up here, and that hurt because I had all my friends there. But when I moved up here, I realized it was for a reason. It was a good reason. I was too safe down there with the people I started to know, but they were all moving off to college anyway, and I thought about it and went, well, they were moving anyway. I couldn't have kept us all together, so coming up here, I was forced to take care of my brothers and sisters while my mom worked. I worked at home just so I could do it. I thought I was going to be a writer instead, so I wrote all night and then cleaned and babysat all day. So, but now I realize all that happened for a good reason. I came up here and met really fine people. I've been lucky to know a lot of, not to embarrass my students, I've been very lucky with all my students, being very supportive. People I've known for years. I had one of my students who was recovering from cancer, and he became my best bud. He said his wife told me that class saved his life. He was depressed all the time. So he'd come to class and draw and paint, and he'd go home for hours and paint. He made a lot of friends, but he was generally a super nice guy. He didn't have to work at it. But he painted, that was his passion until he left his life. But he was an amazing doctor, an amazing person, a humanitarian. So I owe a lot to him because he kind of saw something in me and we were just buds. And he was older than me, but I really, really liked him. But there's a lot of people with those kind of stories in class. Everybody's got their own story. The moccasin thing, walk a mountain makes moccasin, is really true. If you see somebody and they're not nice one day, they can have something going on. So I always tell people, I'll give you a chance. You burn me 3 times, I'll stay away from you for a while, but I still like you, but I don't want to be cozy with you. But I believe everybody should be forgiven. I want to be forgiven, so I always forgive. That's my personal philosophy. So, and the same with painting. When I'm painting, all these different people, I was told, well, all these people were wearing glasses, and I said, well, that's what they were wearing. Well, you should take them off, they look more indigenous. And I said, well, she's blonde, her hair's dyed. I liked her hair was blowing in the wind, she was playing her music, and she didn't care. And she had glasses on. I said, I like she's being who she is, so I didn't change anything about anything they were wearing. I personally made them so that somebody would look at them and see who they were and not my influence. So I say when I paint somebody, I'm really a mirror. It's a relationship for everybody. I paint, I say you date them, you have a relationship, you raise a kid with them, and you spend your whole time with each painting as a relationship. I don't think about it as money when I do it. I don't think about anything. I don't think about the framing it's going to cost me. I have a lot of people say, it's going to cost me to frame this. I said presentation, presentation, presentation. I said it looks good. You hang it in somebody's house, it looks like a treasure. I used to tell myself when I framed something, it was like Christmas. It'd go away, come back, and it looks, I got the bill and went, don't look at that. Don't look at that, but look at how nice this looks presented in the frame. And I tell my students, you may not think you're anything, but when you get that frame piece back, your baby, your creation, your thought, your process, it is important. Does that make sense? I also tell people, when you look back years from now and you're not around, I tell people your painting will live on in somebody's home that they say, this is my great-grandparent did this made me want to paint. I can't tell you how many people have said, my mother took classes from you years ago and she just talked about how that helped her, and I went, that makes me happy. I can't change the world, as I said, but when I can change person by person personally to go out there and create art, I see there's a lot of ugliness in the world. I won't name its situations, but I tell students, if you get somebody to look at something and make it beautiful, and I totally believe this, you have made them stop and look at something that moves their heart and soul. No matter what they're going through, they stop and look at something that nobody sees until you point it out to them. Does that make sense? So when there's ugliness, we keep creating beauty. You keep creating beauty, you will keep the world going and looking for a positive. I can tell you how many paintings I have that a lot of pain was going through it. People go, that is such a happy painting. I went, if you only knew what I was doing during that painting. But that's why I believe in the power of art. I live, breathe, sleep art. I always like my students when they proceed and do paintings. I'm so thrilled when they get it done and they go, I kind of like that. Best paycheck I get. I know that sounds weird, but it's just nothing you can experience when somebody's happy with their work and find that they can create. And I said, my dreams have come true. I've won grants and stuff, which I never thought. And I said, if I can do it, you can do it. I'm living proof. You can go beyond where you think you can go. You just have to walk the walk. Anybody got any questions so far?
I do. I want to know how, you've talked about your influence on your students. How does that come back to your own work? How does teaching influence your work?
Well, I see people, and this is a good question, I see people do stuff, and I'd say by the end of the week, I used to joke, I go home and I say, everybody's done a good job. I earned a thing of Netflix, a cup of coffee with my cats, and some popcorn maybe. And that's my treat for the week for doing a good job of teaching. And they just laughed and said, really? And I said, yeah, it's because I said, at the end of the week, I have a student that's had a bad time. I couldn't figure out how to fix their painting. I couldn't get them to see what I was talking about. I go home and all I can think about is that one person I couldn't reach. And people say, you can't do that. I said, well, I do. I'm a Libra. We try to fix the world. It's really bad. Don't become a Libra. But I'm just saying, those seriously, if I can get, yeah. But I'm serious. I think it's great when somebody, they go, the way they inspire me, I see them paint. I go home, I'm all revved up for my Saturday afternoon and Sunday to paint. So I'm going, I can't wait to paint, can't wait. And they just laugh and say, yeah, right. I said, no, I go home, I'm looking forward to my time to paint because I'm teaching 6 days a week. I get to do 6 hours of painting on Sundays in between classes, and or if I have a deadline, I meet my deadlines. So sometimes I say, no book reading tonight till after 11. And then sometimes I get so revved up I can't sleep. So I've had to learn how to keep meditating, breathing, no more coffee after 9 o'clock, anything like that.
At night?
I can drink it till 10 o'clock at night as long as nothing's on my mind. If I have something bad happen, I am doomed. So if I have like 3 classes and I can't go home and do anything, and I drink that cup of coffee, I've learned on Wednesday night, don't drink the coffee, because I'll wake up every hour on the hour, and it's my fault. So, but it's nobody's fault, because I'm the one who did this. I said, boy, that tastes good. But no, students inspire me, especially when I see them do a good work of art. It revs me up. I do people, I've taken people in the museum and I point stuff out, and I'm always amazed. I go, there's 2 stories of that. I say, I go to the museum, I'm revved up and excited. And I have students go, I go to the museum and I get depressed. And I said, why do you get depressed? There's so much beauty. I can't do that. I said, yes, you can. You just have to do it. I said, if you have a goal, make a small goal and then make a bigger goal. Have 3 different goals. I have short-term goals, medium-range goals, big goals. I always have that, everything in my life, because then if you get the little one, the next one's going to be achievable. But if you don't have a goal, as the song goes, you don't have a dream, you can't make it come true. It's the truth. You got to have something to work towards, even if it's just for yourself. If you want to paint for hobby, that's fine. But if you want to paint for the world, you got to work hard. I always tell people, there's people that made a career of doing stuff that I don't love their work, but I like that they're doing it. I may not agree on the style they did, but they went out there and stuck their nose out there and did it. If you don't do it and you let people bully you, they win. So I say, get out there, create. If nobody likes your work, you stay there long enough, somebody will appreciate it. If you stop, they win. Does that make sense? So you have to make your dream, do it, make the time. I tell students, you draw 20 minutes a day and put a little alarm on, and after 20 minutes, you can stop the drawing and say, I did my goal. I learned how to see better, put it to the paper. I said, it's really important. Draw for you, paint for you. Never worry about what's a new color, what's a new subject, anything. Paint for you, and then keep it up, and then somebody is going to see it. Does that make sense? I can't paint for the next dollar. I never think about the money when I do it. I hope, because I like to pay bills and my cats like to eat. But I believe personally, paint from you, no matter what subject matter. I do figures, nudes. I love nudes. I like to show people that the figure is beautiful. So I do it all the time just for me and hope I can show it somewhere. But I don't think about, well, I'm going to have a whole gallery show of that because not everybody does it. But I appreciate it, and I tell my students how important the figure is. But it's one of the things that most people don't appreciate because it embarrasses them. So I say, I always educate when people talk about naked versus nude. I said, nude, you have the right light, the right form. It's like a landscape or a still life. It's form and shape and light. You can make a 90-year-old person look beautiful in the right light, and you love that person. When I paint them, I love them. Does that make sense? Not to get political here. There's certain people I could paint one time, but as soon as I know who they are inside, and they have a bad soul, and they do bad things to people, I can't paint them again. I can paint anybody once. But if I like you, and you've got a good heart and good soul, I can paint you multiple times. There's certain people in your life or places like Serpent Mound that are your muse. You go there, you're excited by it, you want other people to be excited by it, you're creating that soul that I talk about, you're creating something that people gravitate to. So certain people I just love. Every time they do something, I just love painting them. They're constant. I always tell people, without the models, we don't have a voice. They inspire us to do something, photography or wood carving or painting. Certain people make us want to do more and do the very best. I've been very lucky. I've had a lot of people model for me over the years and made me better. So I have to take one moment and say, there's 3 people that have helped me out in my life, and I don't want to embarrass one that's here. Jen Brown-Checo is one of my teachers. She saw light in me. She helped me out. She gave me courage to do my figures and said, you're really good. She took out time to talk to me and be my friend, also my instructor. So she's one of the people, not to embarrass you, that has helped me to also teach, because I was scared to death of teaching. My teaching job came by accident. Somebody asked me to teach a week. I just graduated from the Art Academy for the time I was doing. I had a year there that I could pay for, and the rest I couldn't, so I only got 1 year. But they asked me to teach for one of the teachers that's going on vacation for a week, a watercolor class, and I said, well, I don't know how to teach. I've never had 0 experience like painting and playing the piano. I had 0 experience. So they said, could you teach your class for a week? And I said, okay. And then all of a sudden they said, we're going to offer you a class of your own in the fall. And I said, okay, and nobody's going to take it. And she said, the whole class vacated the teacher and went to you. I said, oh, that was not my plan. They said, she's got a job, she's got another job, we gave her a better job. And I thought, oh, that's good. So from that point, they said, you want to teach anymore? Your classes are filling. I went, I don't know. I said, can you do acrylics? Can you do pastels? I said, okay, yes, I guess. And that's how I started teaching. 0 experience, people liked me. They liked how I taught, but I had no experience. Playing the piano the same way. The first piano I played fell out of a truck, went into the tar. It was a player piano. The only reason it got it because it played piano rolls, and my dad wanted it. So all the keys, it was never tuned. I learned how to play music on that piano. I got 2 lessons. My mom was doing sewing lessons for 2 girls that wanted sewing, and I got piano lessons in exchange. And they hated sewing. I got 2 lessons, and people said, how many years you been learning to play the piano? I said, I've had 2 lessons. And they went, you're lying. I said, no, I really wanted to do it. I said, I learned how to hear the music, see the music, but if you got me with a classical piece in front of me, couldn't do it unless I've heard it. But I can read the notes. I was never taught the rhythm. So I improvise like I paint. I add stuff in, hear it, I can feel it, I can do it. I can do jazz piano, classical, if I've heard it. But if you ask me to read note by note, I can get the notes, but not in the right rhythm. Until I hear it, then I feel it, see it. Same way I paint. I tell people it's intuitive. I take a photo, ramp it up, fix it, take the positive things about it, and then I take the color and push it, knock it out, take things in, take the things out. And so back to people that are inspired, a teacher that's no longer, Jim Auger was my neighbor. He said, your work is really good, told me how to correct a few things on my figure, and that was all he taught me, but it was just what I needed to hear Any good teacher can hear a little thing and then it adds for your teaching. And Carol Strebel was my other teacher that took out time to say, you're really good, I like what you're doing, keep it up. So teachers are a big influence. So I'm not just saying that because you're here, because I've told people about you. She helped me get a job when she went to France and met Gerald. And she says, Ken, can you take over my work for quick print, Big Red Q? And she gave me illustration work that helped to support me when there was no money coming. I had a great portfolio, and everybody says, well, your portfolio is good, but we're laying off. Reagan got in office, and everybody was cutting back. Everybody went in-house. There was no job. I went on 67 interviews. Everybody says, great portfolio. Really talented, see you later. Jam was my saving factor. So I got illustrative work, and finally I decided I'm just going to go back to art, and I've never been sorry. But it wasn't planned. I took commercial art school, and everything I learned was gone. The day I graduated, it all went to computers. So all the press type I did in the world, computers. All that I learned to do, that I hated to do, computers. So, but you really had to be talented. But teachers are very important, and I try to be a good teacher to make people see the same things. If I can do it, you can do it. Does that make sense? So anything in life, if you put yourself to it, you will get happen, but just have to have goals. Do you want to ask me another question?
I do want to ask you another question. These are great answers, by the way. You've worked extensively in both pastel and watercolor, and you've earned recognition at national levels in both of them. Most of the work here is pastels. There's some watercolors and gouache, but mostly pastels. Looking back, what drew you to each of these mediums, and how's your relationship with the mediums evolved over the years? Do you favor one over the other? Do you favor teaching one over the other? Because they are very different. You know, just stick with watercolors and pastels. They're very different from one another. So,
I started out with watercolors because I was telling people today that in high school we had the cheapest watercolor paper you could get, 90 pounds. We had the cheapest materials you could have. They don't last. We use black, we use white. Their way of teaching was do it. And it was like, well, what's wrong with this? You figure it out. I went, okay. So I'm glad they made me figure it out. So I always tell people, I said, I'm going to push you 10 years into my career and tell you to buy good paper, good product. Think about light fast. You don't want to do good painting and it's not light fast. I tell people I had a painting that I did, a figure, got me an international show, and I kept that painting to remind me from my humble beginnings to that got into a show with 1,000 people and only 60 people were picked. And I went, so I kept the letter to remind me I can do it, put it up there, and then I looked at the slide of it and I looked at the painting and went, all the blues and greens and purples that I put in there are in the slide, but they're not on the painting anymore. I thought, what happened? This never had sun. Certain colors are cheaply made, not children's watercolors, but student grade. Nobody ever taught me about professional grade versus student grade. So I was telling my students, here's professional, here's student, here's the good paper, here's the bad paper. Try them out, but when you start getting something, spend more money. And I always have the argument about money. People say, well, I don't want to spend money. I said, you got to believe in yourself. It's either L'Oreal or Clairol. Which one do you want? And they start laughing. But I said, but it's the same thing. Good materials, good drawing, good paper, perseverance, and you've got something that's going to last. So I wasn't taught those things. We were taught to use black and white, and then I found Payne's gray. Everything looked gray. I thought Payne's gray is fun. It was in everything. And people said, all your paintings look so early winter. And I went, that's not what I want. So I got rid of Payne's gray and black, and I said, back to the white of the paper. And I said, okay, that's what I'm going to teach. No black, no Payne's gray. And people go, are you nuts? I had a student one time argue with me. He wanted to be a realist, and he was using white and black and everything, and he wanted to be a realist. And I said, don't use your black, don't do your white. Are you nuts? I can't do this. 8 weeks into the class, he goes, oh my God, you've changed my life. I can see the white of the paper. I don't know how to use black. I mix my own darks. I said, now you're talking. I said, Sargent used blacks. Caravage used blacks. Degas did not use blacks. I said, creative color, choose the path you want to walk. And I said, if you find your own darks, you will always have excitement for everything you paint. If you grab black and white for everything, it holds you captive. It's a Band-Aid. I said, but if you're forced to find a creative, beautiful dark by mixing this, this, and this, you will remember it the rest of your life. And watercolor, one of the things I like about watercolor, you plan it to do this thing, and then it moves, and you go, oh, I kind of like what it just did. So somebody told me one time, it says, you can make a mistake in watercolor, and you go, oh, that's good, and you just claim that you did it on purpose. But watercolor does what it does. It's like a kid playing out yard. You let them do certain things until there's a problem. Then you fix it and move them towards where you want to go. But watercolor needs to do what it needs to do. You can plan it, but watercolor still does its own thing, and I kind of like that challenge. So watercolor is my challenge painting. It does things that speak to me. Pastels is more definite. I underpaint sometimes with acrylics, then pumice gel, and I say I'm going to do fast painting loose of acrylic, and if the color matches up really quick, that's fine. If it doesn't, I'll cover it up with the pastel and get it right. But first I get my ideas down, my shapes, and I go, is this good or not? And that helps me to see the whole thing. Then I put the pastel on top. So I love pastels because it can be loose, it can be super tight, it can be forgiving. Mixed media, I tell people when I first started, I did mixed media because I fixed things. And later on, I did mixed media because I chose to make this piece mixed media. So once you work, you'll go, this piece looks like a watercolor, this one looks like a pastel, this one looks like acrylic. My rule is I've mastered every medium before I went to another one. So if somebody asks me a question, I get it. If I don't have the answers, I give the credit to suitors. I say, hey, somebody asked this question, Sharon. What do you think? And she goes, I think you should do this. I said, thank you, because somebody asked me and I didn't have the answer. So she's my to-go person. I love Sharon Suter. I always go there first to buy my art supplies. I tell people every class, before Plaza, Cheap Joe's, I always go to the family-owned business. I like their philosophy. I like who they are. I like they take stray cats off the street and have taken care of them over the years. I've met all of them, some friendlier than others. But Sharon Suter is a wonderful human being. If they ever go out of business, I'm in trouble. So, and then I use, like I did one of my paintings here with gouache and egg yolk. I read that somebody else had did it, and I thought, I'm going to do a demo for a class, and I'm going to do it live. So I took gouache, egg yolk, and water, and measured proportions. And people say, why'd you do that? I said, because I'm dumb. I knew it's going to take me forever to do one. One little one takes me weeks versus doing a watercolor. It takes me a week. But I like the challenge. Every so often, I'll do something and go, why did I do this? Because I want to grow. So gouache is very forgiving, but it's opaque watercolor. But if I put egg yolk in it and make the strokes, it's like a Wyeth. It can be super realism or it can be loose, but I really like what it does. But my secret of painting is music plus painting. I can paint for 6 hours straight, standing with music plus my work. If I don't have the music, I can get irritated. So I always tell people, music, if you get happy music, I pick the cheap music that I can paint to. I don't play angry music because then I can really get irritated really fast. Or sometimes jazz, I have to turn it off and switch to something else because it's just cornet sounds and it's like, this isn't working, I'm getting really crispy here. And so, but if I have really beautiful music, it makes me happy. Like I'm listening to, for those who are in the 60s, the Turtles, and all of a sudden they go, oh, happy together. Yes, I am. But Janis Joplin, I'm not playing right now because she's going to get on my nerves. But I pick music that makes me happy. Does that make sense? Each person, somebody can say country, bluegrass, whatever makes you happy. That is my little bubble I create, I call when I paint. I get a cup of coffee, I get my music, I get my paints, and for 6 hours I'm painting until somebody starts nudging me or nipping my feet to say it's time to open the can of food. Then I say, oh yeah, got to feed you. So wash my hands, vacuum up the floor, clean it up. And then I go, now I have to fix something for dinner. Crap. So, but those are the mediums I primarily, but I love pastels because I tell people I can go in and draw for 5 minutes or hours. I can do it really, really quick, wash my hands and go out the door. Watercolor, acrylics, I'm mixing, just as I find the color, oh crap, I gotta go. So I love them all for what they do. I've learned every single medium except for casein and printmaking. But I'm still around. I always wanted to be a sculptor, but I don't have the time to do sculpting. I would love to do those big, tall figures, but I can't get them up to the 3rd floor. So,
That would be a problem.
did you have another question?
Well, I have a specific question about this painting here that you pointed out before.
Okay.
And you were talking about the black and white and the paint's gray, and then finding the white of the paper. I've tried watercolor early on in my career and was very frustrated by it and moved away from it. So I find it a really challenging medium. So, and her hair here, is that the paper we're seeing?
Yes.
Okay, so are you using anything that's blocking out the paint as you're painting over it, like you've...
In the very fine areas, I do little tiny bits of masking fluid.
Okay.
And then I'll do a little larger thing of that, and then I'll go back and go in from the color from her hair out to the light, so I can keep the sparkle. And then I paint in from the outside into the white to keep it and push the values. I always tell people the first thing I do in any painting is find my darkest value somewhere, and that is my map of where I want to go. If I find my darkest value, this is another thing in high school we did not learn, I always painted from light to dark. By the time I got to dark, my darks were correct, but then everything went like this. And I went, what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong? And they would never explain it, and I would do it again. And be beautiful till I put my darks in. I went, I thought I had that perfect. I'm not as perfect as I thought. I tell myself that every day. Light and dark. So I found if I find even this much dark somewhere in my painting, that is what I'm working towards. I've already found my dark. My lights are the last thing I do. Make sense? So if I do my...
Do you lay that down first? Do you put
in
down
places where it's safe, I'll say...
Like the shadow in her legs on her jeans there?
I can do that super dark in there, or I'll do the dark right behind her hair because I want to have something to keep my eye going back and forth to where I want to keep the light. So every time I find, like this painting with the dark blue dress, her hair was the first thing I did because she had really dark hair. That's the first thing I hit. And then I move it around to the background, to the foreground, back and forth till it's balanced. Each one of these paintings I found some place to the dark, and then I moved otherwhere, and then I kept doing this the whole picture. So it goes like this, 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 and as I go further along, it becomes balanced. So I had one painting I tell people, it always humbles me. I was doing a painting very complex, and I went, I shouldn't be teaching. This is awful. And I was almost in tears. I went, I really like this image, but I am terrible. And 30 minutes later, I went, oh my God, it's all coming together. I knew what I wanted, but I was in a hurry to get there. But until I got halfway there, I suddenly thought everything I was doing was correct, but I had my doubts. So I tell students, I have my doubts. I've been doing this for years. But every so often I look at it as, what does it need, what does it need, what does it need? And I say, oh, here it is. And it all came together. And then I've had told people, I said, my secret is to take a painting, and before, I had one painting, the same one, I got it, I really, really liked it. I went, it needs about 30 more things on it. I was really excited, said 30 more, I'll be done by 7, I can have a cup of coffee, watch a movie, read a book. I'm excited about my free time coming up, I earned it. Love this painting. And I said, well, I'm going to go take it to the bathroom mirror. So I took this huge picture, plus my photo, put it to the bathroom mirror, and went, oh my God, it looks great reverse. It's perfect. I realized I was going to keep doing stuff to it. So something told me to stop And I looked at it. This is what I tell students do. I always stand when I paint, because if I'm sitting there, it's like a great big bowl of M&Ms right here. And nobody's sitting there watching me, and I'm eating one, and then the bowl is gone, and there's nobody to blame but me. And it's there, but if I had only put a handful out, I would have eaten only that. But no, I have the whole bowl, and there's nobody to blame. So the same thing with painting. If I sit there, I'll keep adding one more thing. I tell people I've done like somebody's mouth, and I'm doing just a little bit more, and suddenly Julia Roberts is in every painting. And I went, no, because you just add a little bit to that lip, just one more stroke, it'll be better. And it's not their lips anymore. And the hardest thing is for me to do is, I tell students, you got to do this. And they go, oh, I don't want to do it. But I do it. I said, I'll redraw a line on the something because it's safe, and I'll hit it, and I'll hit it right back where I just erased it. And went, okay, erase the whole thing, because I'm putting the same marks down, and that's the hardest thing to do, is to erase and redraw it and rediscover. But if I don't, I'll keep making the same mistakes over and over because it feels good, and I don't want to think too much. But if I want it right, I force myself to erase it. Make sense? So that's how I always do each painting. But that one was done by masking. And then the very last thing, I took an X-Acto blade and scraped and drew with the X-Acto blade just to get a little bit of sharper line.
Okay, great. So you work back and forth between life, you know, figurative, you know, where you have models, and from photography. And how do you find the difference between those two ways of working?
Well, life is always good, because if I have the time, and if they say, if you got the time, I got the money, I got the time, kind of thing. Painting live with a model is thrilling. It can also go wrong, but they're amused. So if I'm painting, like, sorry, Connie, I'm painting Connie, and she's there, she's inspiring me. I can paint that chair, but Connie's inspiring me more, because it's who she is. She's got a soul, she's got everything. She's got who she is, and I got to pull that out. The chair, I can say, well, you have a nice soul, you got a nice feel to it, and I can fudge that. But her, I need to be you and not put me into, except for be in the mirror. I don't interject my personality into you, I have to be you, so your husband back there says, that's Connie, you got her. Does that make sense? If I just say, I'm gonna make you look better, this, that, and the other, I don't quite have you, but I need you to be, you are inspiring me by what you're doing that day, or anybody in here, if you're modeling for me, I tell people I always look for who the person is, and my way of doing it is talk to the person while I'm photographing. So I have the image locked, the light locked, and who they are locked, and then when I'm talking to them, I go, you know what, I missed everything I was photographing I used to do it with 4 or 5 rolls of film. And by the time I got to the 5th one, I would be talking to them, and they'll suddenly do something, I call it the unguarded moment, where they're just turning their head a certain way and looking and just talking about somebody, and oh, there it is. I've been doing this for 2 hours, and they did that one moment that was not planned. We had sort of a plan, but then they became who they were. I knocked down all the defenses. The best model for me is somebody that just like totally gives me everything they've got. They don't hide anything, they say, I trust you. When they trust me and who they are, best painting. Somebody starts performing for me, which is fine if I want a performance painting, but if they open up to me as who they are, I go, wow, I really like this person. I want to show other people what I like about them. I always tell all my friends, I have a lot of people that have died. I was in the 80s and I lost a lot of my friends. I lost 46 people, and then I stopped counting. A lot of these people's modeled for me, took hours being my friend and modeling and opening up, and I painted them and they live on. I tell everybody that's gone, I paint an image of them, and they are still alive to me. And if they're in museums and stuff, somebody will see them years from now, but it still pains me to look at them because I know they were a good person, they were gone too soon. But I tell people, if you're painting something or whatever, it lives on. So I have a lot of people I've immortalized. They're on computers, they're in books, they're in collections. That's what I live for. because I really love painting people. My most important thing, stories of people, who they are, their souls, you want to call it. To me, they live on when they're gone. There's so many people I don't see anymore, but they are in the pictures, they are in paintings. Their story keeps going on. And you all can do the same thing. I really believe it that much. So, but that's why I paint. Yeah. Lead me on.
Well, I'm going to ask a couple more questions, then I want to open it up because I want to make sure everybody has time to question. I do want to talk specifically about this body of work for a minute.
Okay.
And just to talk about what drew you to the mound and how did this body of work come together, and how did your understanding of the site and your response to it change over time, going back and forth?
Well, I tell people I'm a little off center, off the path. I was raised as a Methodist, and it just never had answers, or the organized religion never had answers to me. I had issues in the church where I went, and I had problems with some of the people that kind of abused. I won't go into all that. But from adults I trusted. So I still forgive them and I care for them, but I found that religion didn't answer all my questions of why we're here. I've always had dreams that came true since I was a kid. I had a gift. I guess because I was a little bit wild. I would have dreams that would come true. I would have things I dreamed years into the future that actually happened. So I tell people, you may not believe in something, but I've seen it. I dreamed about how my brother was going to die. I dreamed about my mother passing. I dreamed about different people having things, and I told them. It's just a gift. So I tell people, all of us have that gift. It's painful at times. But to make a long story short, when I go to Serpent Mound, my mom was a big influence in my life. She always said, you've got a talent, we should buy you materials, and I use them. I saw her painting one day, and I said, you know, water doesn't go uphill. And she was painting, she was an adult, and I knew there was something wrong with her water scene. I felt bad for telling her, but I thought, something's wrong with this painting. So I had no knowledge of art, but I was really a know-it-all at 10, I guess. But she didn't kill me. So she was a great influence. I believe in women very much. I wish the whole world was run by women sometimes. But I really believe in what women have to say. I think we're all balanced. I call it yin-yang. Everything's yin-yang. Some people have more male energies, more female energies. I believe all of us have to draw from one to the other. I have women that say, I am not dainty, I can't paint dainty. I said, for this painting you have to pull from your feminine side to do this part. I said, the graceful is the feminine, those beautiful colors you want are feminine. The other side, keep that masculine energy. I don't want you to lose that, but you got to pull them together. For anything you do, you have to go back and forth with those energies. When I go to Serpent Mound, that's where I go to balance my energies, because to me, being out in nature has always been good, but Serpent Mound, when I go there, I feel something. The first time I went there, there was equinoxes and solstices going, and I went there and saw these people wandering around there, and they really took it seriously. And I wandered around, and by the time I left there, I was energized, but also super drained. I went home, I had these really strong dreams. And color dreams, strong energy thing. And it affected me for days. And every time I go there, I come home with that same thing. So I go there whenever I feel like I'm out of sorts, I don't belong. I'll go there, get energized, and that's the PowerPoint places in the world. There's like 7 really major PowerPoint places, whether you believe it or not, where they can even measure energies. To me, it's like going to a church. The Indians built these places because they recognize the energy. I'm lucky that I can feel the energies. Does that make sense? I can look at somebody's face sometimes and say, you don't seem like yourself today. Oh yeah, something really bad happened. I said, I can see it in your face. How did you know that? I said, I just observe it because I paint people. I can see you're having a rough day. I said, so I won't tell everybody, but I can see it when you walked in, you look like you were beat down. So I said, we'll get you painting, we'll get it out of you. And they said, I do feel better. So, but those points, the Serpent Mound is close to me since I can't go to Egypt or Machu Picchu or the places I'd like to go. Mm-hmm. Serpent Mound is an hour and a half away from me, and I've always had good experiences there. So I go with an open mind. I've watched people. And so this show is by accident. I go on solstices and equinoxes because that's the spiritual day where you can pick up the energies, the highest, whatever you want to believe. The Indians knew it and respected it. It's like Stonehenge on those days, it's packed. Machu Picchu and different places, it's packed because they all feel the energy. They travel from all over the world to go to Serpent Mound and these other places. I can go there easier, but to me, I can feel it. I'm lucky I feel it, and it influences get myself back into the world, but also keep some kind of spiritual basis. Everything I believe in has got a little bit of that. Some people say, but I know from living proof there's something out there. As I said, I've had dreams that came true to the nth degree, conversations and dreams years ahead. I remembered as they happened and went, wow. So it's just a good place. So one day I was there, and just before some bad stuff hit my life, I saw these people wandering around and went, I'm going to take pictures of, I like what these people are doing, just following around with my phone. I didn't have a camera, no plan. I only did 2 of these paintings, treescapes, because I liked them, a couple of those before, and never knew that it was going to be a group. So I saw these people at different times at solstice doing their thing, and I followed them around. I said, I just love their energy. I love what they're doing, and nobody's paying them to do this. They were drawn to come here, and they were seriously doing the prayer to the winds and hitting the rattles and drums. And I went, I wish I was as easygoing and could do all this stuff like you all can do and perform without it getting embarrassed. I get embarrassed. You ask me to sing or dance in front, I'm going to get embarrassed, but I can do it. But it takes a lot out of me. But watching these people for free, doing what they believe down to their soul, moved me. And when I got home and was looking through my phone, I went, I really like some of these people. I just love them. I don't know them, but I want to. So I started drawing some of them. And then I said, I want to do another one. I felt really good, did another one. And then all of a sudden there's 34 pieces. The last one was the one back in the back where I did the end piece. I wanted to have an end piece of this 5 women. There was like 8 people in there, but they looked awkward, so I had to cut them off because you couldn't see them. So I got rid of them and kept some of the ones that are in these regularly I really loved. So some of the women were wearing colorful outfits, and I loved who they were. The great-grandmother is in 3 of my paintings. She was really thrilled to hear she was painted, I heard, which made my heart good. Some of the people, one guy had brain tumor, was the doctor over here somewhere. I found out he was in the hospital. He donated a lot of his money, personal money, to save Indian land. I did not know this till I started painting him, that he was really a big believer, and they don't really like him down there because he has a different belief system. I kind of had arguments with Serpent Mound about what's good there, but they're kind of conservative. So I said, well, I'm painting the people. They knew who I was painting. I liked them. They didn't particularly thrilled with them. But they couldn't give me a good reason. But that space was, after I started doing it, I felt really good about it. And I went, I got to keep doing it. And I went through all these, and I went, each one of these means something to me. And it was who they were, and I really loved the people. I wanted to show each of their expressions, who they were, what they were doing, and their belief on their faces, just showing it. Like the 2 women embracing, it was a personal piece. I don't know if people like it, but I like they like each other. It's the end of the ceremony, and she gave her a hug. I want that moment. So it just came to me, and each one, a different story came up that I wanted to do. So some of these were spring equinox, summer solstice, and the fall. I couldn't do the one around Christmas because they close it down. And they do it off at some cabin, and I went, that to me isn't the same thing. So I've gone there, and I was lucky. One day, one of my students is in their back. She's a drumming, and she was doing it. I really like her as a person, and she was doing it. And I took a quick picture of her saying, I like her. I'm going to do this painting of her because she's doing it. She doesn't know I'm doing it, and put her in there. So they came in here and drummed from my show here, and everybody was commenting how wonderful they were. And what moved my heart is when they were doing the four corners prayer, everybody in the room was turning with the drummers as they shook the rattle. I went, oh my gosh, everybody was so moved they did it. And I was in the doorway and I couldn't do it. And I was watching them and I was like, this is going to make me cry because they got so involved, they all participated. I said, how is this going to happen? If I do swimmers, now everybody's not going to jump in the pool for me. But that was amazing. So that little moments like that make me feel like I'm doing the right thing in the world. When somebody says, you made my life better, I love that with art. When somebody says that the art is healing me, I love that. Because I can't tell you how much pain I've gone through, and my teachers that have helped me get through some personal growth and pain. So that's why I believe in art so much. And I say I actually live, breathe, sleep it 24/7. I get so excited going to a show sometime. I come home, I can't sleep because I'm going, those paintings were beautiful. I wish I did that. Now I got to work harder. And people say, that just depresses me. I said, it makes me work harder. I want to be Sororia. I want to be Sargent. I want to be everybody but me sometimes. But painting, I get to do that. Does that make sense? I say Emily Dickinson was a powerful voice when she wrote. She was quiet when she never married, but she had quiet relationships. But when she wrote her poetry, I love what she said. And she was an amazing, powerful person. But she can be shy when she wants to be shy, but when she spoke and wrote, what beautiful things came out of it. That's my personal belief, that everybody can let go on paper or their voice. I always admire people that can sing, dance, and do that. I can do those things, and nobody's going to pay for it. But I do enjoy them. But painting is my personal, I never knew it would do what it does for me. So that's why I want you all to have it. And I will help all my students till I can't teach anymore. That's my philosophy. Because I want to change the bad in the world, and there's a lot of it right now. So everybody's more welcome. If we paint our stories, they won't go away. You can erase, you can delete, you can get rid of women in the military and in the news. They won't go away. So it's important for you all to keep yourself in there and say, I'm not going anywhere. And that's how I survived. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to keep creating no matter if you tell me I'm not good. I got to do it. Make sense? So if I have a zillion paintings at home that need to be sold, I'm still doing it. Somebody else has to worry about cleaning out that room. Anyway, any questions?
Yeah, and any questions, Jan?
So what's catching your eye now? You have finished this beautiful cycle. It's a meditation on Serpent Mound. What's catching you?
I'm doing something that's not going to pay. I'm back to figures. I'm doing I'm taking time to do going back to studying the nude figure and the beauty of it. That's just for me. My gallery that I'm at doesn't show the nude figure. So I've got some entered in national level shows, but I haven't got a place here, a gallery that will do that, but I still doing it.
You go to Open Studio?
Am I going to?
Do you go to Open Studio and draw from the figure there? Or
No, I do people that I know that trust me. I get occasionally, when I was at the Art Academy, we had our models. I had people to choose from, and I got some great people. I've had people that left that I really miss, people that have died that I really miss. I generally have a bunch of different people that have modeled until they got to a certain age and said, things have changed, things have moved, sorry about your luck, Ken. But I still, no. I said, but I still think you're beautiful. No. I said, but, and then I can say but a million times, it doesn't get me diddly. I thought, I'll give you a kitten. No.
I'm not sure that's a great incentive.
I've tried, I try puppies, I try dogs. always. I joke every class, you want an A, adopt a dog or a cat, and they just laugh, and I said, I'm serious. I said, if you're late to class, there's a robe and slipper size, just let me know. And they think I'm not being serious, but that's my end joke. And it's surprising how they come to class on time after I tell them about that modeling. I said, you want to paint or you want to model? I'm getting on it.
Any other questions?
I taught you a lot, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you very much.
thank you.
It's,
Paul did a great job. So I just want to let you know, I would do something for Paul again. He hung the pictures, he told me what we needed, he organized, he put it out there. I couldn't ask for a better response. And I think you got a good heart.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.